Welcome to the February 7th regular meeting and work session of the West Clermont Local School District. Mr. Romano, would you call the order, please? Call.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney.
Present.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Present.
Mr. Chumley. Present. Mr. Patton.
Present.
All present.
Oops, I messed up, didn't I? Pledge of allegiance, please. Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about that. Okay, do we have any cards for anyone to speak?
No, sir.
No, okay. Superintendent Business 4.01 Personnel, Mrs. Adams.
Mr. Overby is going to bring us the personnel report today for Dr. Fultz.
Good evening, members of the board, Mrs. Adams and Mr. Romano. In front of you is the personnel agenda for February 7th, 2022. On the agenda today, we have a few retirements. We have the retirement of Cheryl Turner. In her 32 years with West Clermont, Mrs. Turner has served in various roles such as a teacher, elementary principal, district supervisor, and in her current role as an assistant director of elementary teaching and learning. We also have the retirement of Lori Huntington, a teacher at Summerside Elementary. She's been in the district for 30 years. We have the retirement of Zachary Taylor, a teacher at West Clermont High School, social studies. He has been in the district for the last 22 years. We also have the retirement of Mrs. Susan Vader, teacher at West Clermont High School. She's been in the district for the last 21 years. We wish them a sincere well in their retirement, and hopefully they'll come back and sub for us next year. We have the resignation of Linda Mijas. She taught for West Clermont for 21 years before leaving the district. She came back in 2017 as a campus coordinator. We wish her well in her future endeavors, and we also have 2 part-time paraprofessional aides who have resigned. On the agenda is the proposed hiring of 1 second shift custodian, making Mr. LaFata's life a little easier. 1 full-time paraprofessional aide, 1 home tutor, Nathan Mahan as our new varsity head football coach, and 10 student workers as needed on an as-needed basis. Included in this agenda is proposed approval for requests for unpaid leaves of absences and the hiring of classified substitutes. The superintendent recommends to approve the personnel agenda as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Delaney. Any discussion? I would just like to say, I know Lori Huntington, but not very well, but I have worked with Cheryl Turner, Zach Taylor, and Susan Vader, and I wish them well, and I hope that they enjoy retirement. They're great people. It's a big loss to the district.
I was going to say, that's a huge chunk
Yes.
of knowledge and support that they not only lend to their students, but to the other teachers in the building and across buildings as well.
How long has Mrs. Huntington taught kindergarten?
Oh, my
Long time,
goodness.
right?
I would think 100 years based on how well she handles herself, and she doesn't get upset about things. And my children did not have her for a teacher, but they were in the grades where they interacted with each other and would rotate to her class on occasion, and she's an excellent teacher.
And then also, Mr. Taylor not only taught, but he's been a huge support through multiple sports for our kids, a great role model. He has charisma with the kids that is just gonna be missed.
Agreed.
Okay, any other discussion? Mr. Romano?
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, amendment to the administrative salary schedule.
So tonight we're bringing an amendment before the board to add the titles of Director of Student Services, Middle School Associate Principal, and the WC or Future Coordinator to the administrative salary schedule. This is in an effort to make it more encompassing to reflect the scopes of work performed by our administrators. So the superintendent recommends to approve the amendment to the administrative salary schedule as presented.
Okay, is there a motion? You've heard the recommendation, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mrs. Delaney, a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Patton, any discussion? Ms. Romano?
Mrs. Delaney,
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mr. Rudy,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
5 yes.
4.03, the Merwin Elementary Modular Presentation. Mr. LaFawn?
Yes, good evening, everybody. I want to bring you up to date on the modulars that will be placed at, with your approval, will be placed at Merwin. First of all, the reason. December 21st demographic report shows that there's going to be an additional 100 students over the next 2 years there. And in addition to that, this year, numerous rooms were repurposed for other uses. The library, the stage, the music room, the art room, and several small closet-type rooms have been repurposed for special education and pull-outs. So it's not the ideal situation. So the modular presentation, the modulars were suggested. I investigated several different proposals. The proposal we settled on, I think there's a map that shows the location of these. There's going to be 3 modulars, 2 classrooms each. The one is parallel to the kindergarten room, and the 2 in the back will not be parallel to the building. They'll be at a diagonal. The reason they'll be at a diagonal is so they can be placed 20 to 30 feet away from the building, which avoids any fire code issues. That's the same as the one by the kindergarten building. That is not accurate. It'll be pulled out 30 feet. The advantage over this configuration versus a larger configuration, say of a 4-classroom unit, is these modulars do not interfere with the traffic flow around the building, fire lanes. They take up the minimal amount of parking. I think they're going to lose 10 to 12 spots. That's it. They can still park behind the building and park on the side. The modulars are modern units. One is about 1.5 years old. I believe it's at Merwin schools right now. The other 2 will be manufactured this winter. They will be fully equipped with technology. Actually, we have an upcoming meeting with their tech people and Larry in his department. They'll have security cameras, restrooms, obviously furnished, HVAC, skirting around the bottom, and are really, for modulars, are state-of-the-art. They're very, very nice. We, in speaking to Dan, decided to buy them rather than lease them. It's more cost-effective. There is resale value on these items. In fact, EMOD, the company that we'll be dealing with, said, and that's no guarantee, but they said they would be very interested in buying them back because of such a high demand for 2-unit modulars. So once it's approved, then the very next thing that will happen is to get those 2 modulars scheduled for manufacture. And then that company, EMOD, will begin the permitting and the permitting process with with Pierce Township and Clermont County. I may have to go to a zoning meeting at some point, but they handle all of the permitting for us, which is awesome. The modulars are due to be delivered in either mid to late July. The teachers should be able to move their items into the modulars the 1st of August, and we should be ready for students on opening day. Now, all that said, you know how some of these things flow. There could be a hiccup or 2, but that's what we're banking on. That's what we're taking to the bank, that schedule right there. Site work is done, it's in the cost. It'll be done by EMOD with minimal site work on our part. But Roger Thornburg will be in charge of this project in terms of maintenance and site work. Delta Electric will do the electric install. They're very familiar with modular units. In fact, I used Delta Electric at Reading when we had modulars, and they know EMOD very well. So I think we're going down a really good path. Things are going to happen quick after tonight, and it'd be pretty exciting. One last thing. I did have a virtual meeting with the Merwin staff 38, 39 teachers showed up virtually, with Thad being the moderator. And I don't know if they were excited, but they didn't ask too many probing questions, and they seemed happy about the prospect of some things happening positively inside your building. So any questions?
I'll just add a few things before we turn over to questions, and that is just when you get to a solution for an overcrowded situation, it means we've ruled out other solutions. And so for us, it means we've ruled out the idea of redistricting, because, you know, back in the fall, we were saying that would be something that we explored as we look at short-term and long-term solutions for the district. And because of how we're growing and evolving as a school district, we don't see that as a viable solution at this point, because it would be likely that we would have to then do it again and do it again. And so we want to make sure that as a district, we're doing, we have a short-term stopgap measure, but then we're doing long-term planning, and that we engage everybody in that. So that's a priority. Another option in a situation like this, you could have really large class sizes. And that was another thing that we ruled out at this point in terms of teacher to student ratio. As West Clermont grows, we will see shifts in teacher-student ratio when you look at the space we have and the students that we need to serve. So that will be a likely thing that will evolve as we are in this transitional period. But that's something that we did not think was best in this situation. And then a third thing that we explored was even taking students off campus, looking like, was there another site close by that we could maybe maximize? And based on the improvements we'd have to make at another facility, we didn't go too deeply into exploring it from top to bottom, but we ruled it out pretty early as a really challenging to staff something from two different locations. And so the benefit we thought, and kind of the non-negotiable for us, was to try to keep everything at Merwin on Merwin's campus, because we thought that would be really challenging for families. And so those are three of the key things that were looked at in addition to the modulars, and we think it'll keep Merwin intact. It'll help us engage our families and our community in long-term planning, and it'll keep our class sizes at a decent ratio for us as we continue to grow. As we've always said with these enrollment numbers, the decision insight numbers have served us well when you look at district-wide numbers. They've been, right, plus or minus 1%. I mean, it's been very good to help us plan. Where it has never always been perfect is exactly where those numbers fall. Enrollment is a moving target and something that evolves and changes every year. So we just keep a close look at this, and it's one of those things where you're hoping for the best, you're planning for the worst, and you maximize and you capitalize on everything that comes your way. And so Chuck's done a great job doing this. I know personally, my children have both been served in a modular, and so it's not something that I'm not familiar with. And I have to say it was a very positive experience for both of them. So something I feel very, as a mom, I feel very comfortable with. I would say the environment was actually improved when they were in a modular, actually, because of the air conditioning and, just some bonuses that they didn't have inside of their school building. So, and I know Mr. Overby he was a principal in a school district where he had to, blow up a modular village. His entire school was in a modular unit. And so he has experience leading that and some experience, and as Chuck said, he's had some experience. So we're at a very comfortable level when it comes to all those things. So I just wanted to add that in. So now questions.
I did neglect to say that there's restrooms in each unit, and that the the playground they'll lose that asphalt playground out there. So we're going to enlarge his mulch playground mulch. Almost maybe double the size. There's a soccer field there too. Maintenance guys will fill that in and seed it this spring, so he'll have an expanded playground area for the kids.
And I know back when you were still in elementary school and I started my career at Glen Estee, they had those modulars there for quite a while, and they always worked out very well.
Yeah, the district has had them before. We certainly see this as a short-term solution for us right now. It's not something that we want to have forever, but it is a critical time as the district and community continues to grow to do some long-term planning. I think this district has done a phenomenal job in facility planning, master planning, and kind of thinking through a lot of things. It's just now time to start that next phase.
Chuck, I appreciate the time that you've taken on this and then speaking with each of us
Well,
to kind of
thanks.
give us the information. And
Thank you.
I know that you and I spoke for a while, so I appreciate you taking that time.
Thanks. Mike will be a big help because at Wyoming, he was a modular king and he dealt with the same company that we're dealing with. So there's a lot of connections.
Yeah, so 650 kids on the high school baseball field for 18 months. Using high school gym, high school cafeteria. Tiffany McLeese was actually,
Or, Brennan. Oh,
Ti-
no,
no.
McLease too, that's right.
well,
Sorry,
Tiffany
I always forget
McLeese
about they both were at some
was
point.
working child nutrition at Wyoming when I was there, and Tiffany Brennan was my assistant principal. This EMOD was great to work with. They hit their deadlines. Some things were out of their control, but for the most part, well, we did start school on time. And we moved out after Memorial Day. And we were in the modular, and all of our belongings were in tractor trailers all summer long. And we made it to start school on time. So they were integral in that. So Mike especially, I've worked with closely, so.
That's who we're going to be working with.
So are some of those new subdivisions in the Merwin attendance area, are they at Amelia Elementary? Like that, what they call by Kroger and Amelia, where they,
I'm not sure.
We'd have to look at the maps to see the polygons, but there are polygons in almost every neighborhood that we have right now. So we could get that. I don't have it memorized in my mind, the precision, exactly where they are, but you'll see developments happening all over. And just to remind you, that the thing about Merwin that was interesting when we did the attendance boundary changes is there was a couple things that happened all at the same time. One is, it seemed like every time somebody moved out of a house, a family moved in. And so there was just an anomaly of just growth in Merwin. Secondarily, some of the Amelia students shifted Merwin way in the change. And then third, New Richmond shut down their borders for open enrollment to a couple grade levels, not all grade levels, but a couple, which was enough to bring students back. So it was like three kind of unique situations happened at the same time that continue to grow them. And yeah, Pierce Township is growing and developing like the rest of Clermont County.
and that area has so many family-friendly houses. I can see when people want to downsize, that a family would want to move in,
Yeah.
and they're affordable.
Well, I have a little bit of a history lesson to share about this. My mother is a graduate of Amelia High School in 1964. And when she was a student at Amelia Elementary, when it was everybody all in one building, they went through this. And option 3 that we ruled out this time, putting people in other buildings, and that's what they did. She would get dropped off at the bus at Amelia, at the building, and then her class would walk down the street, down Main Street in Amelia, and go to whatever the building is now, have class, go back and have lunch, go back and have class, go back and get the bus. We couldn't do that now, there's no way, that's safety issues, and she's like, Mom, she goes, it was a nightmare, I can't even imagine trying to do it now with all the kids that we have.
Well, and with the disruption they've all faced, it's like whatever we can do to keep stability and keep us rolling forward is like what we're after
They
right
want to be
now.
with
It's a
their
critical
friends
time.
and in their bubbles with who they're supposed to be with, they don't want to be separated, so.
And I will add that Dan and I met with Pierce Township, their administrators and one of their trustees, just to kind of talk through our plans and what we were thinking, and they were fabulous in wanting to partner with us as a school district and kind of do some kind of long-term planning and work alongside of us. And so we plan to continue to follow up with them and continue to engage, but they were very helpful. We're trying to make sure that, as you asked, Jim, that our information and their information matches, because things seem to be happening all around pretty quickly, so. All right, so if there's no other questions on that, we can move on to item 4.04, because it is a resolution related to this, that we are asking for the board in item 4.04 to pass a resolution waiving competitive bidding and authorizing contracts so that Chuck can get to work on all of this. And so I recommend that you approve the resolution as presented so that we can meet these deadlines.
You've heard the recommendation, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mrs. Delaney, second.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Chumley, any discussion?
I realize that we need to address our space issues. But I can't favorably support this, because of the stance I've taken on the topic in the past. I just wanted to give you some color when I abstain.
You mean about modulars?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it, what's your reason? Do you care?
It's
I'm
been
just
hashed
curious.
in the past, and we're just gonna leave it there.
Okay.
Just gonna say that.
Something I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
All right. Anything else? Any other discussion? Okay, Mr. Romano?
Mrs. Delaney,
Yes.
Mr. Chumley,
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mr. Rudy,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Abstain.
Abstain. 4 yes, 1 abstention.
And Chuck's a busy guy tonight. Item 4.5, or 4.05 is also, Chuck has been doing some legwork on this. Do you want to walk the board through it, and then we can do the resolution?
The Peterman contract is up June 30th, so we have to take bids on that. So I met with our attorney, Dave Lampy, and he created a document called an RFP, which Dan and Natasha looked at as well. So the RFP allows competitive bidding for our transportation business, and it includes specific guidelines and dates that the companies have to meet in the bidding process. And it also, there's a date in there when we'll announce the award of the contract. The RFP will go live tomorrow or the next day. I'll have to get with Jeffrey, and there'll be a link on the website. One company's already contacted me, and I told him that it would be live Wednesday. So the document that you are approving is the RFP created by our attorney.
So it's how we'll go out to bid for transportation, and the recommendation is that you approve the resolution authorizing the superintendent, director of operations, and treasurer to seek proposals for transportation services.
For the recommendations, our motion?
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Mrs. Delaney, any discussion? Just to clarify for members of the audience, an RFP is a request for proposals, in case someone doesn't know that. Anything else? Ms. Romano?
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney,
Yes.
Mr. Chumley,
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
5 yes.
And item 4.06, Mr. Priest will bring this for you. This is about student Chromebook purchases and request for proposal responses, and who we want to award the contract to.
So, as Mrs. Adams said, I'm here to present a proposal authorizing the superintendent and the treasurer to execute agreements for the purchase of Chromebook computers and associated services. Those documents have all been linked up to board docs. The district issued a request for proposals, an RFP, for the purchase of Chromebooks and the associated services to give the treasurer maximum flexibility in how he applies funding that the district receives, whether he's going to use, federal funding or other funding. Gives him maximum flexibility to use those as he sees fit. And so the RFP was issued on January 10th. That was also prepared by Mr. Lampy and his associates. We had a question and answer period, so they had a period of time to submit questions. All questions and all answers were supplied to all proposers and respondents on January 18th, and we closed the bidding on January 21st. So, excuse me, we evaluated all of those proposals based on the specifications that were provided in the RFP, and we have deemed that Forward Edge is the most responsive, cost-effective bidder, and so we would like to respectfully request you accept that proposal as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So my question is, because I'm new to this, is one, Forward Edge has done a lot of business in the district, but where are the other bids at? Do we not, as the board, do we not get to see those? Is that something you
They're in
guys
there.
just?
They're all posted on the boarddocs.com under the public section.
Okay.
So under board docs, all of
I'm
those
still
are
learning
there.
all the maneuverabilities here. I didn't get much guidance on this, so.
No problem at all. There were 6 respondents.
Oh, so each respondent, I will see. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so all their responses are in there.
Okay,
And there's a matrix that sort of rolls up some of the pricing, what have you. One thing to note is that there are some lower cost options in there, but they did not provide either all of the services that we required or the devices that they were specifying in their proposal. There's a Google Auto Update expiration, which is a lot of words to say that Google will continue to supply updates to the devices and keep them viable for a classroom setting. There's a deadline on every Chromebook make and model that's out there. The lower cost options were a year shorter on that, at least a year. In many cases, 3 years shorter on that Google Auto Update expiration, meaning their life cycle would time out 3 years prior to the devices that we are opting for.
Well, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, because I'm going from memory, but there was a time where we were purchasing devices kind of in that range, but it was before everybody had a device in their hands every day, all day long, which is kind of what we shifted to after 2020.
Yes, we were buying devices that would go much longer, and then they would go the same length of time, but we would use them much longer than they were actually viable in the classroom. So we had, just 2-3 years ago, we had a large number of devices that were not test ready, meaning they would not support the latest NWEA browser that's required to take, it's a secure browser that has to be loaded to take tests, state mandated testing. So we had to specially prepare certain devices that students could test on and rotate them all through. Now we're in a position where the devices that the students have are all capable of doing that testing, and we want to maintain that capability so that our students can test when and how they need to.
So Natasha, my question, and this could be my fault on this, so I review the email that you send of the things that we're going to talk about, and that's what I kind of look through, and I knew we were talking about the modulars. So I need to start looking at the board docs and each one of those things, highlight those things. Okay, that is,
Yeah.
my apologies on that, I was not
That's okay.
clear. Yeah, like I said, I just kind of read the email of what you sent, and that's kind of what so I
Yeah,
will start.
that just gives high level. This has all the detail.
Okay, yeah, I will start looking at that, yeah, so I do apologize about that.
I believe I'm still looking for motion, right?
So moved.
Okay, second is second. Mr. Chumley, now any more discussion? And Mr. Patton, you understand all this stuff on here?
Correct, I'm not going to take the time at this point to review it, I will learn for the future.
It's like grocery shopping.
I-
You have to get in there and look. Seriously, that's how I guarantee you.
You know which aisle to go.
You know when you go to different groceries in a different spot.
I do know that Forward Edge is a business that has done business in the district for many
Yes.
years. I do know that they do business, not saying good or bad, I just know that they do some business in other districts, and I'll just leave it at that. So,
They do it at Bethel, and I can say I'm personally and professionally very, very happy with them. They jump right on it and get it solved for us.
sure. Are you waiting for my yea or nay? I'm sorry,
You haven't called for a
Anyone
vote yet.
else?
Call it yes.
Okay.
Okay, no further discussion? Mr. Romano?
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Chumley. Yes. Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mr. Rudy,
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney,
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, well, item 4.07 is preparation for next meeting on February 22nd. State of the Schools message that Dan and I will bring, as well as our family and community engagement future plan that I just want to get some discussion around and get your input and your ideas. So I've given everybody the mailer that's going to go out, and Larry, if you want to spread some of these out, I know people can look at them digitally if they want, but I'll just kind of bring it to your attention. Our theme for this year is a story worth telling, our chapter unfolding. And so that will kind of guide our Love WC Week as we celebrate the district on February 22nd and beyond. But also kind of goes with our messaging of look where we've been. Usually a State of the Schools presentation is really about, just as you see in your pamphlet, kind of a look in the rearview mirror. Where were we just 3, 4, 5 years ago? What has gotten us to this place? What has bridged the gap for us? And then what do we see on the horizon? And this is just our effort to help our community kind of see the picture a little bit more. So if you'll open up, you'll see this very busy graphic that, at first glance, can seem overwhelming, but our mission and our goal over the next couple months here as we move into, spring coming, I know it's coming, and wrap up this school year, is to make sure that we're taking our community and our families and our staff through understanding this storyline. So if you'll just go with me in a global, high-level way, This is meant to represent our roadmap for success, so our strategic planning that we see going through 2025 that will continue to evolve and change with people's feedback. But you can see a kind of a crossroads down in the bottom left-hand corner of we could either have failed the levy and moved into fiscal distress, or we could have passed the levy and gotten on a new road. And so we are fortunately able to celebrate that we were blessed to be successful in that May election. And even though when COVID came and kind of turned everything upside down, we were able to keep moving. It would have been a devastating moment to endure COVID and a failure to a levy. I don't even want to think about where we would be. So we are grateful to our community. And with our portrait of our graduate kind of guiding our path, because that was our vision to say, this is our North Star, this is where we want our students to go, so we want them to be, and so we keep that front and center. And as we move along, we are able to have a couple key things that happened. One of those key things is the onward and upward investment plan. That is what we kind of branded the ESSER funds that come from federal as onward and upward investments, so that we could kind of call that moment in time and recall the key things that were invested in our district. And what we've always said is there are going to be some things that are going to be short-term investments, some things that we would be able to extend over time, because there is an expiration date on that $14 million. And so every little investment that we make is really meant to build capacity, not only in people today, but to last longer than the window of time that the funds were available to us. So you can see on there the key additions we were able to make, or things that we were able to enhance through those investments. So, and then you can see, as you kind of look across the road there, we have a little minivan there, and that is meant to represent, this as a family. All families care about their students' experience, and so we are working hard here in West Clermont to create a new student experience to ensure that that we modernize and that we bring the most engaging learning that we can to our students. But what do you see when you look ahead? What do you see on that road?
Speed bumps.
Some speed bumps,
I was gonna say
potholes.
the potholes.
Yeah.
Looks like Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, the turnpike.
It's a slalom.
Success. I see that there's getting to the direction of success.
Yeah, so that's our vision. If you look there, look on the horizon, you see student success, and how we define student success is that we're gonna retain our staff. We're gonna increase the students that are coming in, and that we're gonna keep them in here. We're gonna have higher performance. We are going to graduate more students who are future ready. We are going to have higher engagement, better attendance, more partnerships, and so that's how we're defining the success. And your copy, it usually looks like sun. Right now, it looks like our printer wasn't great. But what are some of those things that you see as like potential challenges up the road?
The whole supply chain thing. Because who knows how long it's going to last.
Yeah. One of the reasons why Larry's bringing this right now in February, because this is not usually when we bring a big technology purchase, it's usually something that's down the road, is to try to get ahead of that. We all remember our computers are stuck in the ocean thing.
We ordered early last year, and we still almost
we were close.
missed the mark.
Yeah.
So some of the hiccups and hurdles is the financial piece of it. While we're in a better direction financially,
Yeah.
we still have to be very good stewards of the money and how we're spending it and what we're doing with it.
Yeah, so if you'll turn your attention then there's the projected cash balance. It's the one that's a line graph. You'll see that if you saw where we were in 17, and you see the number go down, but you see where the levy for learning, it was successful, it passed, and that took us to a different trajectory. So you see a levy reaching out beyond our commitment of 2024. So that's a huge celebration here, is being able to extend beyond our commitment. And another thing about our commitment was that we said that we were gonna keep the level of services and programs, we're gonna keep them. And we've been able to do more than that in this time. And so that is something to be mindful of, because, at every curve that goes up, eventually it's gonna come down. That is how school finance works. And this is what I want to bring your attention to. Look in the bottom right-hand corner. You see in 2019, see the breakdowns of the state versus local contribution. What do you notice between 2019 and 2022?
The shift goes to local
Yeah.
versus state.
Yeah. The new state funding model, it's called Fair School Funding Model. It's interestingly named for us, that's for sure. Might be fair for some people, it doesn't feel so fair when you look at it like this. And so, this definitely sways in favor of schools that have an abundance of economically disadvantaged students. And we're a district that is kind of in flux when it comes to that. Our numbers are shifting and changing as our demographics change. So those are just two things to note, because those are uncertainties that we have to face together ahead. And there's questions, you see in there, questions about the housing market. What's gonna happen with housing? This summer, I remember hearing that nobody could get a house in West Clermont if they wanted to, like they were going like hotcakes.
No, people are advertising on Facebook, like, I'm putting my house on the market tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
They're still going like hotcakes.
yeah. Also, pace of enrollment. So you see that the enrollment chart is listed in there, and it's the same chart that we shared with you guys a couple meetings ago that shows that 5-year growth, that, things are happening here. And, our crystal ball isn't perfect, but we want to be ahead of it, not always reacting. And so part of our efforts between now and the rest of the school year is to get more people understanding the reality of this and getting people around a table, engaging with them and discussing what do we see for the future of West Clermont? Is the answer modulars every time we have hit a hiccup and stay status quo? Is there a longer term, stronger, bigger vision? And what are the finances behind it? I mean, there's a lot to discuss. And you see on there specifically facilities of Holly Hill, Merwin, and West Clermont Middle School as challenges to address. And you'll also notice student and staff well-being. And I don't know if maybe any of my team members here would be willing just to share any anecdotal experiences or things that you're hearing from teachers, because I know there was a period of time between winter break and probably just about 2 weeks ago where teachers were just sending me maybe blogs that they were reading on a national level or things that they had seen on Twitter or whatever that was painting the picture of what an educator was feeling like. And it's like, it's because they didn't quite have the words to convey it, and they're like, I saw this thing and it's really telling my story, which was just just being purely exhausted, decision fatigue. The idea of our teachers and our staff are dealing with what they call secondary trauma. So it's because all the students that you serve everyone's facing some kind of trauma, and it's what are the secondary impacts of that on the adults. And those are I'll use another example was just the staff, like they're so used to routine, like that's what education has been. It's a schedule that we can predict, a day that we can predict, and what have we been able to predict for a long time? Not how we're spending our days. And just how like upsetting and disruptive that is. And so how do we learn to be more resilient? How do we learn to support our staff better? Like, those are all the things that are big question marks for me as we look at what does it take to get from where our minivan is up to student success. So I don't know if you guys have any little anecdotal things that maybe you would add about what you've heard staff say, and as we just try to paint a picture for the board. I'm putting you on the spot, so if you don't, it's okay. But.
I just think that, for example, our teachers that work with English learners and the work that they do and have done in the past has shifted a lot towards almost providing care that looks a little more like social work at times. At the same time, they're still required to teach them reading, writing, listening, and speaking. They're getting tired. Their numbers have gone from maybe having 25 kids in their caseload to 45 kids in their caseload, and now they have kids that don't speak any English, and they may have never had education in their own home country. So I mean, those people are calling and crying at the end of the workday, not knowing how to serve and support kids all the time because their heart is so big for those kids. And that story is replicated in every aspect of education right now. Our reading specialists, our intervention specialists, our classroom teachers, they're working really hard to just make sure that kids are taken care of and educated. And that it does get to be a lot, watching that sometimes their kids are going through some very traumatic experiences.
Well, and Jim, you live it every day.
I'm just thinking that I've been sleeping crazy amounts when I can,
Yeah.
and that might suggest part of it.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of staff in that way, or they're saying like, I've been trying to encourage people, there's no magic bullet for any of this, but just when you can give yourself some time and take care of yourself, you can be better for others. And nobody wants to be preached at or, like there's no magic pill here, but it's hard for educators to prioritize self-care. And there are people talking about just sleeping a lot, being so tired. You're like, I'm so tired, I can't call to make an appointment to get my hair cut or get a massage or, like whatever that thing might be that makes you feel better. Like I have so many things on my to-do list, I can't even get to that. And so it's not like we're gonna solve this at this table right now, but it's just an awareness that what is that we need to do as a school system to attract the very best, support them and develop them and retain them. Because it's a very competitive market out there. We talked about that a lot this morning in cabinet, about what the options are for educators. Some are throwing up their hands and saying, I'm out. And we can't afford to lose any of our teachers. We can't afford to lose the people that we are investing in and who are a part of our team. We want to hold on to everyone. And so what's it going to take? What's it going to take?
And it might help if veteran teachers would talk to the younger ones and just tell them, you know what, I heard from somebody the other day from 10 years ago, and I did a little thing for them, like I bought them lunch a couple of times or something, and how much they appreciate that, and how much teachers can really change kids' lives.
Yeah.
I see that because I've been teaching for so long.
Yeah.
But they'll come back to me from 30 years ago and say,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was such a jerk. You were so kind to me. And I'm a better person because of you. And that gives me the drive to keep on going, even at this age.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes if you're in elementary or middle, you don't get to see that graduation. You don't get to see that kid necessarily walk across the stage. And so it's out there, feels so far away. If you've only been teaching for 4 or 5 years, you don't necessarily have those stories of the aha.
I think with us doing the elementary walks, that kind of helps with that. So that
Yeah.
they get to see their little ones that are
Yes.
actually big ones now,
Oh, yes. Oh, the tears.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of the things I know in my office, we have a big banner that says leadership by example. I know that that's always important. So when we see the top doing what they need to do and then making sure that we know that we're appreciated for what we're doing. And so it's the same within our school system as well, is to make sure that our teachers know that what they do, we appreciate, and that they are appreciated. And we know that they put in some hard work and putting their plans together, and some are giving up their planning periods to cover other classes, to do internal subbing. Some of them are having multiple classes. So that right there goes a long way if we just simply, as a district and as a board, make sure that we know that our teachers know that we support them and that they are appreciated. That will help keep and retain good teachers.
Indeed.
We've been talking a lot too about the differentiation, what you just talked about, Jim, a little bit too, and Ryan as well. What motivates a millennial or a Gen Z versus a Gen Xer is very different. And how do we differentiate how we show that appreciation, how we notice them, and make sure that they feel that appreciation. We talk a lot about that as well. Because we have a resilient bunch. As you all know, I've been at the middle school a lot in January and will continue to be there. We transitioned to a different schedule now. To do that in the middle of the year, like what Natasha talked about earlier, we love predictable, as educators, what each day looks like, right? And all of a sudden, when we were remote, we said, we can't internal cover like we need to. And they were taking 4 classes, making them 3, and, doing a lot, the gymnastics of keeping the doors open and things. And when we brought that schedule forward, I think they all took a sigh of relief in many ways, and the data is coming back. They did a survey early on that most people are appreciating that change and know that they're going to have to give to the collective good sometimes when it comes to having the internal stuff. And so, but, when we talked about it, it was, we want you here every day and we want our kids here every day. So how do we do this? And then they had to figure some things out, and they're being coached now on how to lead intervention within their blocks. So bottom line, we have a resilient bunch of teachers who want to do what's best for their kids and best for their colleagues each day. But they are tired as well, as we continue to make those changes. But I've been very, it's been great to see that happen each and every day, and the collegiality that comes from that at the middle school. Appreciate that.
As we move forward, what's gonna happen over the course of, this will be the week of the 14th, there's going to be a series of newsletters and blogs that are meant to paint the picture of what the student experience is and how it's changing. And so that'll come out one newsletter a day over the course of that first week, the week of the 14th. And we'll just help to continue to paint the picture of like how education is shifting and how education is changing. And one thing I want to call your attention to is on the back of here, it says, join us for upcoming West Clermont Town Halls. We have a plan starting April 21st. We'll meet at Holly Hill, May 3rd at Willowville, and then on into the fall, September 22nd and December 8th at the high school and middle school. We are going to have some face-to-face engagement sessions where we bring people together to continue the conversation of this map. It's a lot to take in at one breath, but we are hoping that it truly serves as a conversation starter and as a way to engage our community. So I really have two questions for you guys as we wrap up this conversation. The first one is, what is front and center most important for you as we're looking ahead and you zero in at any certain part of this? What matters most to you? And what do you think that we need to be able to put our energies toward when it comes to future planning for our district? And then the second thing is, what do you think is going to be most effective for engaging our community, getting people involved in these conversations? Because there is a path, there are some ideas, but this is something we have to kind of create together as a community, and we're not trying to shove any ideas down people's throat and just say, take it, accept it. We have to build this together, and so that's going to take some rolling up some sleeves, some pulling up to tables, and engaging with us electronically, face to face. And we haven't, we've been somewhat successful in doing that, but not enough to like take on this new lift, this heavy lift that we have ahead of us. So what would you guys say about what on here do you think is the most important thing for us to put our energies toward? And number two, how do you think we can engage our families to bring them along in this journey with us? Those are my questions.
Me on the pathway?
Well, it's, and anything on here, truly, or if you think something's missing, that you think is where our energies need to go, that's fine too.
I think we need to keep focused on our class sizes and our building sizes so that we don't end up with more modulars. And I know that this was unpredictable, with, like a perfect storm, but maybe being a little bit tighter on watching that.
I think exactly what we just talked about is probably most important to me is like the student and staff well-being. If that goes south, like the whole ship's going south.
We're a big people business. And we're vulnerable, we're vulnerable.
We've been through a lot the last 2 or 3 years, so.
Yeah. And then the weather works against us.
Yeah.
Like everything works against us, it feels it sometimes.
And in conjunction with what you guys have said, I just look at Holly Hill, Merwin, and the middle school, and wish we could have beautiful new buildings there. Now, I'm sure Holly Hill could probably be like Clough and some stuff done to it, and it would be a better thing, wouldn't have to be a completely new building. But as much as I love the middle school campus, because I had great years there, and I think it has a lot of class, style, but that and Merwin, if they could be replaced, and Holly Hill could be redone, I think it would make a big difference too. I think it's lesser. What you guys said is more important, but
But
if
that
I
plays
could-
in line with what I've said, yeah.
if I could get Bill Gates' ear or Jeff Bezos and cry and
He's on the
carry
moon.
on, maybe we
Jeff
could get
Bezos.
3 new buildings.
Let's go to the moon, yeah.
He's in outer space.
Well, what I hear from in both of you with your comment is getting that plan laid out and not being up against a wall.
Yeah.
Like, we've got some runway here, a little bit of runway, but that time will go fast. And so that's why this kind of talking and planning and picturing is vital.
I wonder if now would be, not today obviously, but in the short term, would it be appropriate for us to do a thought exchange with our parents to see what their support of maybe replacing the middle school would look like? So that if that's gonna be a plan 4, 5, 6 years out, that we start engaging on that now.
Yeah, so as, in between our face-to-face engagements, we have some electronic ones that we wanna do along the way to do just that, to kind of figure out, like, here's all the things we could be talking about, how do we continue to narrow, and prioritize, like, what's on people's hearts and minds, what matters most, so.
Did you say this was going out to everybody?
This is out in our entire community, so yeah, this will be in the mail, it's gonna go as fast as the mail can make it happen, right now. So our hope truly is that it's definitely in mails, before February 22nd, because there's a little invitation on here to tune in to the state of the schools. It has, links to join our newsletter, mailing list, follow us on social media. But yeah, and it's one of those things, we're hoping that it's catching enough to provoke some conversation.
I think that, I guess my first thing, I want to address the how to engage the community. We can engage our families that are in the district if they want to be engaged, because not everybody is reading we are sending out so much valuable information that will answer their questions and lead them to the answer to their questions, or, why something is happening. But there's a lot of our school community that's not engaging that, and I think we need to increase that engagement as well as our community engagement. Our community engagement, we know, we were so successful in reaching our, getting down into our grassroots with our community during our levy campaign. And I think when we did that, we were able to get some people, in the bus with us. And I fear that because of the pandemic and, now that we are, progressing into the endemic phase of it, if we can somehow virtualize that type of thing so that, we can get more, because I don't know that people are going to want to open their homes like they did in the past, or, some of those sessions, they had some elder community members in them who don't maybe want to expose themselves, and that might be a stumbling block for us. But I think if we get our school community here instead of here, that they would be a good spokesperson for us to help spread that to, we can tell people to sign up for emails, and if they do, that's great, but if you don't read the contents of them, there's a lot of valuable information, and all, our principals send their Friday emails or their Sunday emails or whenever, they send all that stuff out, and not everybody is engaging that resource. And I think that, that's the world we live in now. Not everybody has time to pick up a piece of paper, but we have it on our phone. It's on our iPad. There's not any reason, honestly, not to have it at your fingertips. We just have to make that 2 seconds to read it.
Well, and our mailing list is still, I think, quite small. When you think about our community, we're a little over 3,000 still, and that's since the levy even. And so that engagement needs to grow, and we're very successful on social media, getting lots of followers and good reach. But the fear I have is immediately jumping to money as that's all that people think we want to talk about, or that all there is to talk about. And the truth is, it's a factor, but we got to get a plan. We've got some time here, but that time will go quickly. It can catch up with you. And we've got to get a long-term vision here that people can wrap their brains around and are interested in. Because people's lives, their work life, their family life, what people believe that schools should do and should not do, it has all turned on its head since March of 2020. And so we got to listen and find out, what do you need from a school system? And how do we build that plan together versus just trying to fit everybody into a box that just doesn't work anymore?
So one of the thing of having, or one of the most important pieces is to have, I don't want to say one voice, but to make sure that the message is getting conveyed the correct way. Because I know that sometimes within the community, sometimes these messages can get changed, or it doesn't get delivered the way it needs to be delivered. And so I think that is important. It's important to have the troops out on the field delivering these messages, but just to make sure that we are getting the message we want conveyed to the community. But it's also meeting the community where they are. We come to the Civic Center to have these board meetings, and there are some individuals in our community that have no transportation or barely have transportation to get to and from work, and we're asking them to come from the furthest part of our township or our school district to be able to come to Union Township to the Civic Center. So we need to, and you are doing that, and I truly appreciate that, but you're going to where they're at, and we're trying to meet them where they're at, because that's
Yes,
important as
it
well.
You know, and you said that, you know, always come to the community for money or to discuss money, but I think that that's part of what they expect from us. That if I'm giving you money, what are you doing with it? What are you investing in it? What am I getting for my money? They want to hear that. Back to your engagements, you know, there's those that don't care, and that's okay. We still have an obligation to make sure that the material is still out there and transparent for as many that.
Well, and that's one of the reasons for the State of the Schools, is to kind of once a year, kind of give a status of, okay, where are we? What have we accomplished this far? And what's on the horizon, so that there are no surprises. I mean, there's always variables that change that we have to attend to. But we want to always be conveying to our families that our hands are on the wheels and our ears are open. You know, we're listening and we are responding and moving us forward. And I think there's just so many, I mean, as you look along this road and you think of topics that are there, maybe some that might even be missing, there's a lot to tackle over the next couple of years. And we don't want to be so far out that we look back and no one's with us. We want to make sure that we are coming along together.
Go ahead, Ryan.
It's interesting that you brought the question to us, because in all honesty, I too was going to ask that question, because, you know, you and I spoke at one of the parent engagement meetings, and there wasn't that many parents, and it's like, you know, the principal, I'll just say the principal if I'm allowed to use names, the principal put out the email. I mean, this was saturated, but yet you had low turnout.
Yeah.
And your question to me was, how do we, and it's a great question. I don't, like, it was there.
Yeah, and that night in particular, like, there were two parent nights that we had this, one was with the math course of study, one was the high school engagement. And we didn't stream it on purpose because the nature of the event was very interactive. We thought it would be more annoying to actually watch the interaction, because it was more engagement at tables and back and forth that we thought would be really weird virtually. Something like this, you can kind of watch virtually and it can be okay. And so that's kind of what we're toying with too, because we want people to be able to do it from their living room if they need to. But sometimes the kind of engagement you get, because, you know, I had a gentleman that came up to me that evening. He goes, you know, I didn't really know what I was signing up for, but this was awesome. Like, I really felt like I got to say everything that was on my mind, and he was just so surprised of how, like, it was organized, because it was uniquely done. It wasn't just sit and get and just expect us to, like, you know, pound an idea down your throat. It was true engagement. And so I think it's I don't know, there's a little bit of a learning curve here, and then we have to get good at how do we leverage our technology, how do we leverage video, how do we reach people in all the different ways that a community expects to be engaged with now, because it's not a one-size-fits-all, that's for sure.
Well, I think it would be, I think it would be helpful too is, you know, we have the graphic down in the corner here that shows the difference, you know, the 10% shift in our taxes. And I think people, the people who do not understand school funding automatically assume, oh gosh, they're gonna come back and ask for more money from us. But I think what we need to do is, we need to, you know, you're advocating for our district, Dan's advocating for our district. We need to teach our community and our families what can they do to help us? Like, you know, do they need to write a letter to the senator? Do they need, you know, who do they need to contact? You know, if we can, you get those, maybe it's a writing project in a classroom or something. But, there's there's more voices that can be heard. I just don't think people really know where to start to, put
To
the pen to the
advocate.
paper and who to send it to.
Yeah.
You had mentioned, the interaction piece, that you didn't want to have those type of meetings where you expect people to engage and give feedback. At work, we have meetings that do exactly that, that you can, throw a question up to the audience, and then they could answer online, and then you could see their responses. Or they could funnel questions, and then you could take time to say, here are the questions we received online. There are opportunities if we.
Yeah, I didn't mean there aren't ways to do it. I was
Yeah.
just saying because of the nature of how those were set up, that would have been
Yeah.
awkward. But I think you can do some engagements that are meant to be, everybody's virtual and we like look at the chat or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, we can.
We did that somewhat during this run.
Yeah.
We didn't do
Yeah.
online, but we
Yeah.
brought questions that were asked
Yeah.
outside of the meeting.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for you. I think you're speaking specifically about that particular.
That particular event.
Because he was on a board,
Yeah,
he
it
was
just-
writing stuff.
you couldn't have
Yeah,
translated
in general,
it.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
general.
Absolutely,
But
but
you-
if
there
we're
are some
trying
things
to
you
reach
could.
further,
Yeah.
and we need that transparency, we need to get that message out there, that's another way we
Yeah.
can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like, it's gotta be, this is gonna sound really weird, cheesy, but it's gotta be cool to wanna do this. Like, it has to be like Tammy gets her group of 10 or 20, and then Michelle gets her group of 10, like, that people are like bringing their, their neighbors, their friends, like,
Right,
it
you
has to
bring
be,
a-
hey,
you
go
have
to
to
this
bring a
thing with
buddy.
me. And so we need to make it, social in nature, something that, is not feeling like a boring school meeting, but something that can get a base of people understanding this at a different level as we continue to engage virtually and try some different ways. And so, I guess that's saying, how do we get cool, is what I'm asking, right? How do we get cool?
Kids are
I know,
going to
my,
town
I know, exactly.
We need it on TikTok challenge.
I know,
and,
yeah, my daughter would be mortified, if you hear me, so. Well, what I hear from you guys telling me is that, so, yes, we gotta get our families, and if we don't get our families, we're never gonna get to the community. So we've gotta really, we gotta bridge that gap, that we need to, really think about advocacy and help people have actionable steps where they can advocate for things at a higher level beyond just at a school board meeting, maybe at a state level or beyond. Using electronic means for communication and getting feedback, whether it's thought exchange or any other tools we might have. That facilities and class sizes and buildings, the space is a priority and the kids are a priority. Like, it's hard to toss those things up as it comes to running a school system, that we can't lose our sight of. And the fact that we need a common message that is understandable, that we can all repeat, and that we meet people where they are. That everyone doesn't have to breathe in this thing and understand every bit of it overnight, but piece by piece, we need to bring people along. So, all right, so, I guess with that, what do you guys think about it overall? Is there anything, not that we're gonna redo it tonight, we're not redoing it, but in terms of what else we would do to supplement it, is there anything you think, oh, it would be so cool if you could X, to continue to get this message out? Because I told you, we're gonna do an e-newsletter series, a blog series, there's gonna be op-eds in the paper, and then we'll start the engagement meetings. So, anything else you can kind of think of as a way to connect?
I noticed the absence of children, there's no nothing, just,
That's, okay, that's coming in the e-newsletter, but,
yeah, the visual connection. It's just not a roadmap.
yeah, like the people matter.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Could we do like you two did and just force our ad onto everyone's phone?
I know. Maybe.
I don't think that would be very
We'll
popular.
tell Jeffrey to get on looking at.
Does our school do anything like a podcast? Do we do any type of a
We,
podcast?
we were heavy into podcasts last year, really working to increase that. And then because of working on the new website, we just haven't had the personnel to make it happen. So we're gonna come back to it, but the website is kind of taking over all of our thought life right now.
Who oversees our website and our?
Jeffrey.
And he's the one that gets all of our communication
Yeah,
out?
yeah.
Okay.
we're a team, we're a mighty team, but yeah, he's the creative force behind making it all happen, so, we certainly have help in doing that, but when it comes to the technical, video podcasting and all that, we do plan on bringing more of that back, we just haven't been able to do it until the website's finished.
'Cause I know that they do a podcast at the school that I work at, and they get the kids come in, or teachers will come in and talk about something that's going on in their day, or.
Yeah,
and,
are our
it's-
parents starting to really listen to it? Or is it more for staff, like what, or is it for a kid audience, like?
No, it's for whoever,
Oh,
and
but-
they're starting to build on it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
It is a work in progress, much like any communication, so.
Yeah,
but,
it's definitely an area we want to continue. We had fun with that last year, we just had to divert our attention, but I think it's a great tool. And you asked about that too, so certainly something,
I think the TikTok idea is.
we'll put Ellie on that. during the TikToks.
You talk about
Yeah, can we,
mortified,
like,
my
do
daughter
some-
would
can
be
we
mortified.
Snapchat or
Or
something? I mean,
sure.
I think
Oh,
everybody would read
Yeah.
it if there was a
I can see
Snapchat
YouTube
filter.
TikTok.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys, I'm just kind of getting in this zone with us. Next month, or no, not next time, February 22nd, will be all about kind of bringing this more to life. Pictures of children will be included in this. And we hope people will tune in just to kind of get the big picture and kind of go from there. So with that, I'm going to move on to superintendent comments briefly. So, again, the weather's not our friend, COVID's not our friend, all these things are working against us, and so I just want to thank the families again for being so adaptable and flexible with us as we've had to go into many modes of operating. And we thought for sure we'd all be back on school on Monday, and no matter what the guys did, and the gals, the team that takes care of us from a safety standpoint, the weather wasn't cooperating, and the temperatures weren't cooperating, and the concrete wasn't cooperating. So we hope, knock on wood, this is not a wood table, but knock on wood, we're all back in action tomorrow. And again, the resilience of our crew and just the families really being understanding. Like, there was one email today, one email in my office. And so I think that's really says a lot about our community and how they are partnering with us. Now, for a big amount of communication that's going to come out after this meeting. First and foremost, I think I've let all of you know as board members that, the hubbub around town with the Super Bowl, that little thing that's happening here in Cincinnati, was, it definitely gave an opportunity for a lot of West Clermont students to practice their persuasive writing skills. Because I've gotten some few little pictures and essays and emails. And here are the facts. You know that operating has been a challenge for us, and we have been fighting hard just to stay in school. It's what we do every day. And yet we have this anomaly, this situation that's happening in our community, in our city, that we're very excited about. And so what the team started doing, number one, is we started to look back. What was the attendance rate on Super Bowl Mondays before the Bengals were even in it? And you can see the numbers show that we are missing anywhere from 50 to 75 people over the course of the last 3 years. So already that's a hot date of challenge for us. And then you add what the COVID absence rate, which is very similar to that, on top of that, that puts us in a predicament. Then you add to it that every time we turn around, there's another school that is taking off, and that takes our staff away with childcare issues. So it's just mounting as a big, fat, challenging day. So what you're gonna see tonight, from communication-wise, is that we are fighting hard to not lose any more instructional time. We're gonna make a switch. And so we had been scheduled on February 18th to have a professional development day, a teacher work day for our staff. And the students were not scheduled to come in. So what we wanna do is switch it to make that February 14th will be that day, and people will come to school on the 18th. So families will get a communication tonight letting them know we're gonna make a little calendar switch that will keep us from having a terrible operational Monday after the Super Bowl day, considering all the factors that paint the picture that this is not going to go well for us. So the 18th is a Friday, the 14th is a Monday. We're going to be switching those 2 days.
And one thing you didn't mention was our inability to find subs on
Oh,
Mondays.
yeah, well, yes.
I mean,
Right.
so
Well, Mondays and Fridays are terrible, and so.
add that to the mix of everything.
Yeah, yes, thank you for reminding me of that. And yeah, no one's signing up for that. So it's just layering, and our continual issue has been operating, and this was gonna be one of the hardest days probably that we've had. So we're gonna communicate that change, and then at the same time, we're gonna be reminding everyone that we have hit our 5 calamity days, and so, across the district, and we have different schools in different places, so the rules start to change a little bit as you move down the calamity path. But we're at the place with all schools now that principals will be sending out instructional, schedules for the day. They'll either be tuning into Schoology to get work for the day, or they'll be tuning into classrooms with a schedule for the day, just kind of depending on where they are on the path. So this, communication reminds them of that, and reminds them that there's a holiday also coming up. So as much as we're trying to stay in school, there's things that are just by the nature of the calendar taking us out. So that communication will come up after here. There's going to be a Merwin family communication that follows this meeting, letting them know about the board action that was taken tonight and the changes that are gonna happen at Merwin. There's also going to be, what's the third one? Oh, no, that's a staff communication.
High school.
Oh, and then we'll be sending out to the high school families and, to the students, the announcement of the new football coach, because that's a big deal for our students as we prepare for the fall. So a lot of communication is gonna come out of our email as soon as this meeting is over, so letting you know. And then just a reminder for everybody, Love WC Week is February 22nd. We have themes, it's kind of storybook themes, spirit wear, shout outs. We're hoping people, decorate with their Love WC signs in their community, send those pictures to us on social media. And State of the Schools will be on the 22nd here, 7 o'clock. We will stream that, just like we do all of our meetings. And then that morning, actually, well, I guess it's afternoon, we're having our Partners in Education event. Like right now, we've RSVP'd, about 50 people have RSVP'd. So we're very excited about that. To come in for a lunch, we're gonna have, we call it pie, so it's Partners in Education. So we're having pizza pie for lunch. And we are recognizing a Partner of the Year for every single school and the district. And so it's just a way to honor them and thank them, and also give them a little sense of where we are on this roadmap, because our partners are incredibly valuable to us, and we want to be able to continue to make sure that all of our efforts are kind of rowing in the same direction. So I think that is literally all the things for my list.
Mrs. Adams?
Yes.
If a student's family had planned on a long vacation or a long weekend, the 18th through the 22nd?
Yeah, we'll work with them.
No, okay.
We know there's gonna be some of those, there's gonna be some staff stories like that, there's gonna be some family stories. We know sudden changes in the calendar used to be like a shocking, you can't believe it's happening, but it's become like a way of life for us. So, but it isn't beyond us that some families might have a hard time doing that switch with ease. So that's why at the bottom of the communication that's going out today, it just says contact your principal. I didn't want to get into like explaining all that and getting into, because there's just unique situations, and the principal can work that out with them. We are certainly not going to penalize people because we've made this shift for operation, and we've tried to prove that really throughout this whole pandemic, being as flexible as possible. But yeah, thanks for.
Shouldn't really affect too many staff members, should it, on the
No,
Friday?
there's just, there's different working calendars in a school district, from teaching to paraprofessional to health aides, and everybody's kind of on a different schedule. So there's some nuances there that we have to address, but we have plans for all of them, and we'll be flexible with people, so. Okay. Any other questions for me?
I plan on keeping my kids home Monday anyways.
You were a believer from the beginning.
Well, I hate to blow it, but it was senior skip day too, so
Oh, really?
I love that we're.
Taking it, pulling the rug out into there.
The 14th was?
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
I saw something about that.
That's
I
really
think
funny.
ruined their senior skip day by just.
Now it's everyone's kids.
That is funny.
So,
We're all participating.
we're all participating. Yeah.
We're supporting the class of 2022.
Yeah. I am impressed with some of the persuasive techniques of our students, like they were compelling.
Where
That's
do
for
people
sure.
get their signs at?
The signs for which thing?
Love WC.
Oh, Jeffrey will be sending those out in social media, like in all of our posts that are coming, so, he'll be sending them out that way. So it should start next week, on the 14th.
Anything else?
I thought you were wanting a Bengal sign with the wolf, that's where I was like, I was just so stuck on
High school
that.
selling t-shirts.
Yeah, the high school
Yeah,
sign.
the
Which is
high school
Yeah.
Yes.
PTSO. It's on my Facebook page. You can grab it off of there.
Yeah,
I think they're like $12.
We're gonna go fast.
yeah, big fundraiser. Yes.
Okay.
All right, well, thanks, everybody, for your feedback. This is very helpful to us.
Treasurer's business, Mr. Romano?
So there's no report this evening. We have something on the 22nd. But I do want to make a comment about the stuff that you saw this evening. First, it was great to work with the superintendent on this document. If you have questions on the financial end of these graphs, because if it's going to go out to everybody in the community, I'm sure they may have questions, and they may have questions of you. So if we can give you any information about what's behind this stuff, we can do that, some talking points behind it. So we can prepare that too, because it should be a talking point, and it should be something that you can respond to too, not just the superintendent, myself, and the administrators. Compliments to Larry and to Chuck, to Mike and the others. The actions that you took tonight are really capital asset expenses that you did, and when you look at the time frame of looking at things for next year, they have a short window to get some things done, so they have to backtrack from the summer to the spring and the late winter to get things done. And that's also kind of a time crunch once they identify those things to put it done. So it was great working with them to make sure those action items came to you. The third thing with that is I'll remind you of some things that we started to talk about 10 months ago. So I think it was in March and April when we started on the upward and onward. That really has to do with some of these purchases to do that. So that there were 3 rules that I talked about, okay? And I'm not going to test you on those 3 rules, okay? But the 3 rules were this: if we have revenue, that's ongoing revenue, we can match ongoing expenses with that, and that's primarily into the general fund, right? So that we don't want to spend money that in the future we don't have, okay, to do that. Second rule was if it's one-time only money, i.e. the ESSER funds, the $14 million, we know that there is, and the superintendent mentioned it this morning, and we always keep reminding people that there's a drop-dead date on that, okay, which is in September of 2024, so really the last fiscal year is fiscal year 24, the period that ends June 30th. So we have to, it sounds kind of funny that says we have to spend $14 million by that date, but after that date, there's no continuation. So those are the things that we are investing in, okay? That we make an investment in, whether it's people, processes, or facilities, or capital, okay? We're making investments so that we get the payback now, but also that the payback endures a little bit longer than we're making those things, okay? The third thing, okay, and that was, the other 2 are probably common rules that everybody thinks of, but the third rule was probably my own rule that I made there, is we got to be flexible. Because there's certain limitations on the one-time only money, because there's limitations on the ESSER funds with that, and we intentionally go out and spend some things, we may need some flexibility of, does it come out of the general fund or the capital outlay fund, or does it come out of the ESSER money, okay? So I just wanted to put that back on the table so that you know and keep that in your mind as we move forward with things. It's not magic, but for example, with the modulars, that was an unexpected thing that really came up, okay? That's part of that we need to be flexible, because do we take that out of, it's gonna come out of the permanent improvement fund. That's the right place for it to come out of, right? The capital outlay to do that. Well, that may mean that some other things may shift back to ESSER, or may shift to the general fund to do that. But we have time to do those things, okay? So I just want to lay that on the table to make sure that you are aware of that. But again, compliments to these guys for, it's a pretty lengthy RFP that you put together. That's a pretty lengthy RFP that the attorneys put together that you have to go through and add those things up. I appreciate the fact, Mr. Patton, that you were looking for the other quotes and bids, okay, to do that. That's great, okay, to do that. So, but yeah, those are my comments. And again, if you have any questions on some of this stuff and need more, information on what's there, let me know.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Board comments. Start with Mr. Patton.
To go last. No, again, as we continue to always say, I do appreciate what everyone does. I know that Natasha's got a tough job right now with all of the movements that we're having to make and tough decisions, and I do appreciate those decisions that she has to make, whether they're liked or not. They're decisions that we have to make, and we have to live with those decisions that we make, and I do appreciate that. I do appreciate the fact of what the teachers have been doing, what they continue to do, and again, I appreciate everything that everyone has done in here. Like I said, I appreciate the conversation, Chuck, that you and I had as it related to the modulars. So,
Thanks.
again, thanks for everyone.
Okay. Mr. Chumley?
Yeah. I would also like to say thank you for the tough decisions that you've had to make, especially the last couple of days. I drove by Merwin yesterday about 2 o'clock, and I saw people out there just like going to town on the ice, so I know it wasn't without effort. But my kids go there, and I'm really appreciative of that, so thank you. I'm glad we're working with Pierce. That's awesome. I hope that we can continue to build that relationship. I think it'll be very beneficial for both of us. And Pooh Day. I can't wait till to go downtown during the Super Bowl parade. So in a week or so.
Ms. Springfield?
I have nothing.
Okay. Mrs. Delaney?
Well, I'll make up for Mrs. Brickman. So, thanks to all of thanks our families, our teachers, everyone for your patience. It's just been, it's utter chaos. I can't even imagine being Mrs. Adams and Mr. LaFata getting up at 4:30 in the morning to figure out, are the roads clear, or if, whatever it is that you guys do. I'm glad it's not me, number one, because I'm not up that early, and number two, no matter what you do, it's never gonna make everyone happy. Thanks to Mr. LaFata's team, they were out there this weekend. They're a small army with Nerf weapons. I mean, it's like
That's a good point.
we couldn't, Mother Nature just dealt us, there was no sun to make the ice, help the salt. I mean, we went out Friday night, and they were over there chipping away at the high school, and Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock when I drove past, they were still over there, and it was still a solid white surface. It just wasn't.
They were over there yesterday afternoon as well when I went past.
Yeah, I mean, and they were over there again, it's just,
Thanks, I'll tell them you said that.
we are not equipped. I mean, we don't hire it out to someone to clear. I mean, our custodians and our maintenance people, they do that work so that we don't have to hire it out and, spend that money. So they worked. I mean, if they got to sleep a couple hours a night, that was probably a lot, and I appreciate that. We're going to miss all of our retirees. I just can't believe, there's a huge chunk of tenure leaving, and there's a lot of experience. So if you work with those people, grab onto them, osmose some of the information before they leave, because there's just valuable things that you can learn from those individuals. Good luck to our high school cheer team. They're going to Disney this week to compete at the national level, so that's amazing. Those ladies have worked hard, so hopefully they have a great trip and get out without having to de-ice the plate. Welcome, Mr. Mahon. It's going to be exciting to bring him to the pack. And remember to breathe. One crisis, that's my thing. I tell people every day, I'm like, breathe, one crisis at a time. You can't do any more than what you can do at that moment, so just breathe. That's it.
Hey, Mr. Rudy, can I make mention of something that I was reminded by you? If you've not been to see our competition cheer, you have to go see them.
Oh, they have
I went to the ECC conference, I don't know, it was a cheer competition.
it's their cheer yeah.
I was left with my mouth gaping open at the amount of talent we have on that team. Just the level of performance, the technique, how many girls are out there and how in sync they all were. I was just in awe.
Mm-hmm.
They were reported as good stewards of friendship and, like friendliness to all of the teams. It was quite impressive. And on top of it all, we have a student sophomore who won the jump off So, of all of the kids in the ECC, she won and represented West Clermont so well. Listening to the teams around here when it was who were they voting for? It was unanimous. Everybody was voting for her, and I thought, look at just the camaraderie and the support of us. It was fantastic.
It's like
If
winning
you've
the
not
Big
been, you
Banana.
have to go see them. They're really good.
Yeah, it's like the Big Banana. At UCA cheer camp every summer, like that's the award
The
that
award they all want to win.
your peers, they vote on it, and that's their thing, is to get the Big Banana. So that's the equivalent at the ECC. So they won the Big Banana at the ECC.
So, but thank you for allowing me to share that.
Anything else? I'd like to thank everyone, and I would also like to pleasingly report that you got high marks on social media. I didn't really see anything negative. A lot of
That's
people
really
support
surprising.
you. They said they can imagine the job that you have to do, and they were very pleased with decisions that you've made.
Well, our families have been great, honestly. Like, I couldn't ask for more.
You got tagged on the parent page too. If you would have been a Facebook member, yeah, someone tried to tag you.
Oh. There's some scary Natasha Adamses out there. We found them on social media before.
No, but it speaks volumes to how you've been able to connect with our families, and where we were 10 years ago, where we were 5 years ago, and where we're at today are three different places. And we thank you for that.
And that's why I'm so excited about this engagement, because it's like time to go next level. It really is. Like, we need people, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do. This is not like one person just sits and starts telling people what the plan is. Like, this is a lot of heavy lifting, so I'm excited.
To add to this too, and it's not necessarily my business, but make sure you're taking care of yourself,
Oh.
because we need you to lead the ship, and just making sure that you are taking a breath and you're taking care of yourself, because in order to run this big ship, you gotta make sure you're in good health.
Yes, thank you.
What goes with everyone else.
Yeah,
Yes, we preach at each
I
other
know
all
you
the time.
guys
Yes.
are good support.
I'm just worried about the captain. I'm
Yeah,
sorry about
yeah,
you. No,
yeah.
No falling in potholes.
But the captain's only as good as her first mate.
Dan, you've been quiet this whole
I'm good,
meeting.
I'm good.
Thanks, everybody.
Anything else? So our next meeting is the 22nd.
Yes.
Look forward to seeing everyone there. Looking for a motion for adjournment. Oh, I did want to ask you one other thing.
Okay.
Would you be able to get Coach McMahon, is it McMahon, McMahon?
Mahan.
Ellie knows how to say it.
Mahan?
Yeah.
Would
Is
you
it a
be
long
able
A
to
or a
have him
short?
come to a meeting so we
It's
could
a
meet him?
short. Yep, we'll work
Just
on it.
sometime?
That's what I
Yep,
thought it was.
we can do that.
Okay. Looking for a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? Mr. Romano?
Mr. Chumley?
Yeah.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
5 yes. We're adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.